Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of my Out of the Park Baseball 22 series with the Pittsburgh Pirates here, and we are back with the next episode starting at the beginning of July. Of course, July is pretty much the busiest month of this series, especially since the first year player draft has been moved to July, at least for now. I'm not quite sure for real life. I'm definitely going to have to check that so I can update that. For now, I'm actually kind of fine with it. It makes this episode really important. Lots of stuff happening in this episode. And speaking of stuff happening in this episode, let's go ahead and get into it. First, before we get into the first thing, which is the international amateurs, I want to quick go over what happened over the team on the team last month. And one pretty huge thing is Cody Bolton tore his UCL. Can't speak. He's out for 9 months, and he had been very good for us so far this season. He, of course, didn't start on the roster, but Cody Bolton served as both a starter and reliever for us this year, and it was actually pretty decent. I mean, a mid-threes ERA, ERA plus, above league average. A lot of walk issues for a starter, I'd assume. All in all, kind of a decent piece. Wasn't really awesome. Was pretty interested in what he had done so far, but unfortunately we're not going to have him for the rest of the season. And record-wise in this time, we've actually jumped a bit in the standings here. We're second in the NL Central somehow here. As you can see, the division is pretty poor. And even the National League, we're not really that bad. I mean, 34 and 41 is pretty decent compared to the rest of the league. We're about middle of the pack out of everyone. I would be interested to see how that shakes out for the rest of the year. Expected record-wise, we were playing 2 games above where we should be. So, I guess a little overperforming. One reason for our recent surge, I would assume, is Jorge Soler. Of course, when we checked in last time, he was just called up, and he's been absolutely awesome in time. And you can just see from his little window there, I mean, 12 homers, 267, 364, and 608. He's been an absolute monster for us ever since we got him up. And he's definitely a guy who I am going to be looking to deal. Of course, we got him on this very team-friendly deal. And of course, if he continues the rake for the next week or so, I mean, we're getting the trade territory pretty quickly here. So he's a guy who I'm definitely going to be looking to move. Another guy who I absolutely will move this year is Adam Frazier, who continues to just not hit at all, despite pretty decent contact hitter ratings. He just has not been good for us at all. In fact, he was a lot worse hitting than last year. His WAR is definitely inflated by somehow an incredible defensive season at second base, even though his ratings aren't awesome necessarily, even though he was a bit of a better hitter last year, almost league average there. But yeah, we're going to be moving on from him. I want to get Cole Tucker, everyday beast. He has been very good this season for us in a utility role. And, he's been kind of playing mostly every day in that utility role, but I want to get him a starting spot in the infield, see what he can really do there. And then guys like Inciarte have continued their pretty good production. Brian Reynolds continues to not hit. Hayes continues to hit. And Jeju Ko, our international guy, continues to not hit himself. Hopefully, again, you can turn that around. Then the other main guy who we're going to be shopping here is James Paxton, of course. Pretty good ERA. A not as good fit, but still a veteran starter who I feel like will have no problem moving. Again, another pretty team-friendly contract. He hasn't really been banged up that much this year, so hopefully we can move him. So that's pretty much every update that I have in that time. International amateurs-wise, I've taken a look at a few of the top guys here. I was kind of interested in this Matsuyama guy, 16-year-old Japanese infielder. Also, Omar Monge, no idea how to pronounce that. Mongi, something like that. And then there's also this outfielder, Oscar Lopez, and then also Alex Falcon. And pretty much I decided to go with Oscar Lopez, and that's basically because he's the most well-rounded player. Not great discipline rating, which I don't like, but he can also play a defensive position. You can see they're pretty decent outfield ratings. It's pretty much between him and the Japanese third baseman Matsuyama. But the only problem with him is I really don't even like him as a third baseman. I mean, he has a fine arm, but he really, 40 infield range is really pushing it. Like, he's going to be a below average defensive third baseman, and which is weird that his range is so low because his speed is so good. So that kind of worries me with him. But yeah, Lopez is just the most well-rounded player. I probably wouldn't play him much in center field, but if his bat becomes what his potential is, and especially if it becomes what OSA thinks it's going to be, he definitely could be a very useful player. So we're going to go ahead and just offer him that $5 million, just because probably won't accept it if we didn't. So we'll go ahead and offer him that money, that $5 million. I'm sure he'll get back to us soon, and then I'm going to check in a few weeks when we get to the All-Star break here. So before the All-Star break here, we actually have the first-year player draft, which again I forgot was just before the All-Star break. I thought it was after the All-Star break in July at this point. So looking at our first pick here, which in the order wise is 6th. Actually, kind of let's see who was picked here, because it looks like there's some pretty decent guys here left. Yeah, it looks like there are definitely some guys who, especially this first guy who my scout particularly doesn't really love, although OSA rates him a decent bit highly. But we got 3 guys here who really look to be good players here. First, as Jared Jones, who honestly isn't really too interesting. Huge power bat. Listed as a catcher, but really not much of a catcher. Based on his ratings here, would profile much better as a corner outfielder. So probably not particularly interested in him. Gavin Keyline here. It's quite interesting, or is a bit interesting, I should say here. Bat isn't the absolute greatest. Could be productive bat. His defensive ratings looks like he will be able to play short for a bit for us. With that 65 range, I'd be comfortable slotting him in every day at short. And then we have Malcolm Moore here, who honestly is probably my preference of the bunch, just because his defensive ratings with that 60 catcher ability. He's a guy who I'd be comfortable having as an everyday catcher, and with those offensive ratings, if he would develop fully like that, I think he would do pretty well. But I honestly don't know here. I kind of want to see the OSA mock draft, because these guys, not many of these guys are too interesting here. Our scout seems to like Jared Jones here, and honestly, I might have to as well. With those ratings, he definitely is just a first baseman / corner infielder, really, corner outfielder. I kind of lost my train of thought there. Yeah, I prefer to not really play him at catcher, but honestly don't think there are too many better options here. I'd probably let him develop a bit as a catcher and just see if anything happens, but it's honestly kind of disappointing class here. Honestly, I might have picked Elijah Green here if his personality is better. Low work ethic kind of scares me there. Ooh, Luke Heyman here is honestly kind of interesting. Pretty good defensive catcher there, actually. Any of these pitchers, Cole Phillips again has a low work ethic. Skipworth there really isn't worth anything. Carson Applegate, yeah, that's the thing. Like, all of these guys I think are like interesting players. With all the guys at the top included, but I just don't really see the first round value in any of these guys. So maybe in a perfect world we would trade down, but fortunately can't do that. So yes, I'm probably gonna have to go with Jared Jones here, just because he's the guy who I like the most, and I think has the most upside. I think he could be a pretty decent power bat for us if he does develop. So we're just gonna go ahead and take him, and then see who's available here in the second round. Malcolm Moore is impossible to negotiate with, but he is still there. Roman Anthony is also still here. A lot of the guys who we're looking at here, kind of as interesting guys, are now gone. Tommy Specht is kind of interesting here. He could be a center fielder, and I think honestly I'm just going to go ahead and take him because he looks to be a pretty good center fielder or defensive center fielder, and then also has a little bit of pop and a little bit of on-base ability. Kind of looking at a bunch of the hitters left here. Joe Brown is interesting, and he can catch as well, looks like. Maybe not particularly, but this guy actually looks like a very good utility piece to have. Again, as I said, can even catch a little bit. I think we're actually going to go ahead and go with him. I kind of like his more contact and on-base approach, and I liked his ratings actually quite a bit there for this portion of the draft. At this point, I think I'm already ready to kind of sort by the potential that these guys have. While Caden Thornton, that guy's really interesting. Has like no arm, no contact, but it's pretty good catcher ability. Mike White here. Definitely a few interesting people there. Davis Green. I'm just gonna go ahead and take this guy. Kind of surprised that he's available still. Ooh, he wants. His sign ability is impossible, so I guess we won't be going after him. It looks like. Santiago Ordonez. I actually like his bat quite a bit. The only problem is he doesn't really have a position, but we're gonna go ahead and take him anyway because I think his bat is probably worth it. Jason Blaylock here. Again, another guy who semi-interesting. This guy has a position. I'm ready to take him, and he does. He's an outfielder. A pretty decent one. Actually, look like case potentially Parker Brocious. And then all these guys aren't particularly interesting. I think if I'm just gonna go individual pitch potential here, or actually pitching potential first, and then go on from there. I mean, Tyler Go, I'm going to take him just because I don't think there's going to be anyone who's better available. Not a lot of guys with good stuff left. Probably going to go individual. Anyone got an electric fastball or throw particularly hard here? To be honest, not really. Havlicek, I think he's a guy that we should go after here. Looks like he could be projectable into a starter. Troy Taylor, an infielder who looks like can't really hit at all, but he actually is not the worst pitcher in the world. Kind of at this point, probably looking like we're searching for a lot of relievers or just one guy with a particular great pitch. Don't really want that guy because of a lot of his ratings were really low there. This guy has an electric curveball, it looks like. Yeah, best curveball in the draft. Carter Boyd. He could be a pretty good reliever, I think, for us probably down the line. This Gavin Black guy. Wow, I actually think his ratings are pretty decent as a pitcher. Honestly, might be worth kind of developing that guy as a two-way guy just because of the fact that his catcher defensive ratings are pretty decent. Two guys with some pretty good sliders here. I think I'm honestly done with this draft. Not a lot of guys who were particularly too interesting. So we're going to go ahead and see if we have to negotiate with any of these guys left. And we don't. Carter Boyd actually going to go ahead and just give him his demand. Maybe we could offer him up. Then move on a few days down the road here to the All-Star game and break. Alright, now we've reached the All-Star game. Now we're going to go ahead and look at the rosters here. Honestly don't know what kind of representation we'll have here, but I already see one, and that's Mitch Keller, who I mean, it wasn't particularly good for us, to be honest, but here he is. He's on there. Yeah, I mean, ERA plus about league average. I mean, he's fine. Again, he's the best pitcher in our organization. Again, a guy who I think is a pretty good depth starter. I'm not a guy who is a 1-2 frontline starter by all means, but his ratings are pretty decent. He's got 2+ pitches. Two pitches that are also pretty good. That slider and changeup, decent stuff. Decent enough control again. So he's honestly not a bad option here. And then looking, I would assume that he's probably our only all-star representative here, and that's why he's here. And it honestly looks to be that way. The only other guy that I think would have a chance to make it is Ke'Bryan Hayes, but he is not here, and it looks like third base was pretty decent this year. Again, Ke'Bryan Hayes actually probably had similar numbers to J.D. Davis there, but at that point it's kind of just they're so similar that it really would be hard to pick anyway. So I'm fine. Don't really get bent out of shape about the All-Star break here. So next we're just gonna go ahead to look and move some guys here. All right, the first guy here we're gonna look to move is Adam Frazier, and if you look at his numbers right here, he actually decided to learn how to hit here, at least a little bit. I mean, 269, 329, 406. About a league average hitter. Looking at OPS plus 1.6 WAR. I mean, it's about time he started to hit. I mean, still not awesome by any means. Even looking at his career, I mean, not as good as his 2018 or 2019, and especially not his I guess his 2016 was about in line those years where he was about a league average hitter. Again, about a league average hitter here, and I mean, we're gonna try to move him in that $7.5 million salary, and we're gonna try to do it as soon as possible. Don't want to risk him, going on a cold streak here. I think he is what he is at this point. So we're going to go ahead and see what kind of value we can get for him on the trade market. So after kind of shopping around here, it took me retaining some money to really get a deal that I really thought was fine. And that was Nick Nelson from the New York Yankees. He's really not a great spec here. He's from the Yankees, who haven't been having a great season of their own. They're 46-44. I mean, kind of out of the playoff hunt. I'm kind of in it. It's a pretty close race. So, looking to kind of bolster the lineup here and get kind of a guy who hasn't even really made much of an impact on the Major League club. Only 14 innings this year. But he's a guy who I just kind of hope could maybe be a starter. I mean, if you look at his stats here, or his ratings, I should say, actually pretty good stuff, good movement. Really 4-3. Really good pitches here. I mean, that fastball and curveball are really good splitter, and also a pretty decent cutter there. Problem is his control probably keep him from being a starter, possibly because it is below 50, and usually 50 is the threshold in this game, where you really need to have 50 control to be a good, reliable starter. Maybe you can get away with it if you have plus stuff like this, but it's pretty hard. His stamina also isn't that high, but he's worth the experiment. Again, I had to retain some money in Adam Frazier to even really get a look here. I'm going to go as far down as we can go, and it looks like it's going to be 45 for us to get this deal done, which is fine with me. I mean, he's only on the books for 1 year, so it's not like we're retaining long-term money or anything like that. So I'm fine with eating about half of this contract for the year, and I'm getting, hopefully pretty good prospect in return. So we're going to go ahead and do this deal for Nick Nelson, and then I'm going to follow with a few more deals here in a bit. All right, and then the very next deal I have here is actually for James Paxton, who I had waited until now because he actually started to get a little bit banged up. He got injured for most of the month of July with a sore shoulder. Then I decided pretty much that when he came back, I was going to go ahead and try to deal him. And the deal's here for Jason Adam, who isn't really much of anything. He's a 30-year-old reliever who's in AAA for the Cubs right now. Has a bit of major league experience. Actually was very good for them in about 24 innings in 2021. and has been pretty decent in AAA for them 2022. This deal really is to just get rid of Paxton's contract. We tried it out. He's that player option for next year. He just wasn't very good. His ratings have started to decline. He's down to 44 overall right now. His control movement are starting to go a bit. It was in my best interest to move him. The Cubs were a team I looked at who, of course, are ahead of us in our division, competing for first place. They're a game or two behind the Brewers. They have had some pitching injuries, need some pitching help. So they're willing to give away this reliever for Paxton, who is on a pretty cheap contract, and they're hoping that they can get something out of Paxton here. So we're going to go ahead and do this deal. I'm not even going to think twice about this one. I'll get Paxton's salary and him off our team, and so a little quick deal there. And then so for what I think is going to be the final deal that we've been going over here is the most anticipated one, at least for me, and that's Jorge Soler, of course, who we brought in on that 1 year and player option deal. And I haven't looked quite yet, but I would be pretty sure, yeah, he does not want to pick up that player option, so he's just going to be a rental. And there are two deals here that I found that I think would be absolutely stellar for him. The first being one for Tristan McKenzie, pretty highly regarded Indians prospect here. And at this point in the game, he's 24, as you can see by his age, almost 25, about 5 days left until he's 25. He does have a fragile injury proneness, but he has been very good. He hasn't had too much major league experience. This season, he's actually been pretty bad with them. As a starter, it looks like he was very good in a few innings with them the year before. He does have a 65 potential, which is really good. Getting this kind of value for a guy who's just a rental, Jorge Soler, and I think we all know about the Indians' outfield struggle, so I'm sure they would be jumping at the chance to add a guy like Jorge Soler to the outfield. So this is a deal that I really think makes sense for us. But then also there's another deal that I'm considering, and it is this one, Mario Feliciano, the catcher here. And as you can see by his ratings, he's a pretty decent prospect. Not the best defensive rated catcher, which really kind of makes me shy away from this deal. I've also had him in previous OOTPs where he doesn't really turn out to be, or turn out to what his full potential is listed at. He's not really hitting particularly well. He actually has received major league experience where he wasn't hitting particularly well this year. We've already have a catcher, which really shouldn't deter me from picking him up, because at this point he's 23, still a projectable prospect really, and I don't really think that you should consider positional need. Just take the best player you can get, or the best deal you can get really in this situation. But I honestly think it just has to be McKenzie here. Hunter Dozier might also be interesting. He is pretty controllable contract here. He's been pretty good hitting wise, but I think this is really just replacing a guy like Soler with a pretty similar guy. I don't really think this helps us in the near future. Unlike McKenzie, who if he does turn out to his potential, he could really, really help us, and hopefully we could possibly get rid of that fragile injury proneness tag. So I think McKenzie's obviously who we have to go here. And with us, we might even send him down to the minors this year, but I think we just have to kind of go for this deal. Getting a guy like McKenzie, or at least a guy with McKenzie's potential, would be pretty big for us, especially if he, of course, is able to develop. And then so after all those trades, this is how our lineup is going to shake out, at least for now. One move I did make is Donovan Solano is just sitting out there in free agency. So I decided that I was going to go ahead and pick him up. He actually was the batting leader last year, it looks like. He hit 333, which definitely was due to BABIP luck. I don't even want to... I guess we'll go ahead and just take a look at what it was, because it's going to be definitely absurd. It was 412 for the entire season, which is, a lot. Or really high, so we just picked him up just because sitting out there. We have a hole at second base, or in the infield, I should say. Our roster spot opened up with kind of all the trades that we had, so we had a spot to fill. And Kevin Newman is not a guy who I view very highly. Of course, had a great season last year, but we'll not bank on that happening again. His ratings have dipped. I just saw no reason to keep him just playing every day. Solano was a better option, so I decided, why not? I'm going to go ahead and pick him up. So with those moves again, Cole Tucker's slotted now into our starting shortstop spot, which I'm fine. He's going to be getting the everyday ABs there. Bowers has returned from his injury, which has kept him out for most of the season. So he's going to be playing in right field for us every day. So this should be the lineup that we'll put out there every single day for us. Looks like Coe is actually starting to hit a little bit, getting that slugging above 400 there. Again, not very good, especially not for a first baseman, a guy who we expect to be a big run producer. But hopefully he can continue to turn things around. Florial has been pretty bad for us still. Hopefully, he can turn things around. He's splitting a lot of time in center field with Inciarte. And then Colin Moran continues to be pretty good for us offensively, although we're just not going to play him over Coe with the contract that we just gave him. So yeah, that's how our lineup's going to shake out. And then pitching-wise, Mitch Keller still remains our number one. Nick Nelson is going to be a starter for us, and it looks like he actually had a very good first start with us there. Alizé, who's been bad, is going to continue to start for us. Stephen Brault. Joel Payamps here is going to get some starts for us. Tristan McKenzie, because of his struggles so far, I sent him down. Isaac Matson is a guy who I thought was a pretty good 2-pitch option of the bullpen, who I picked up off of waivers, and then everything else pretty much the same, I believe, as it was at the beginning of the video, and that's all I have for the updates post-trades. And the next time I see you is probably going to be at the end of this season. So again, thank you guys for watching. Enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe and show support for the channel in the series if you've been enjoying it. And I'll see you guys in the next episode.